Joining us now with more on this topic is Edye Washington, the American Indian Education Coordinator with Duluth Public Schools. And Dr. Marsha Lue is a Lake Superior College TRIO Student Advisor in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Thank you both for being here. This is quite a subject for the Northland. We've heard, Edye, that for some time Native graduation rates are down. What factors kind of play into that?
I believe some of the factors that play into the way of our graduation rates being, they kind of fluctuate up and down. But I do know that some of our American Indian students, they don't feel that they are a part of a system that embraces their identity and culture and language, and there's a disconnect there. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that plays a part. Lack of being represented in our curriculum also plays a huge part. And there's a whole lot of, I'd have to say, historical trauma when it comes to the education system amongst American Indian communities, mm-hmm. because there's a lot of history there that isn't. It's not a good experience for our American Indian community and students.
Marsha, does that change at all by the time Native students get to college?
I don't believe so, not from what I've seen. With my specific position, I work with a lot of students who are first generation, low income, or
Sure.
students who identify with disabilities. So then there's a lot of intersectionalities that come into play as well. And that historical trauma also follows them throughout their educational paths mm-hmm. and into their careers sometimes. So I see that.
Maybe you can both answer this. What can be done to increase graduation rates? What needs to be done?
Like you said, I work for Duluth Public Schools, and my experience growing up in the education system, and I went through Duluth Public Schools for my entire educational career, and I came back as an educator to help figure out how do we increase graduation rates for our American Indian community. And so one of the things that I started, we're in our 7th year right now, is we started an Ojibwe language immersion program, and that program is inclusive of all students. Mm-hmm. And so for us, our curriculum focuses on the moon cycle from an Indigenous perspective, from an Ojibwe perspective. And so as we're introducing math, science, social studies, mm-hmm. We are actually teaching them from an Ojibwe perspective. And to me, that is really helping our young kids have a really good sense of identity, sense of self. And it's also sharing experiences and our perspectives with non-Indigenous students in our school district. And I think that right there is a pretty good strategy, and I believe it's, moving forward to help our students.
Sure. Marsha, does that stop at high school once you've graduated, or does that continue on into college?
I believe that continues on into college. I know for myself as a Korean American person going throughout school, I went to school in Wisconsin, I didn't have anyone to identify with. And so I see the connection piece at the college level come into play. Students want to see someone, they want to connect with someone who has similar experiences or a similar background.
So that begs the question, why are cultural initiatives so important throughout school and into college?
Growth, connection. I think the more students learn from a younger age growing up, they can grow and learn
and
more.
Cross cultures.
Across cultures, definitely. Mm-hmm.
High school?
I believe that those connections are definitely made amongst our students. And when we're talking about multicultural education in high school, I think it shows through those avenues that our students, there are some similarities, but there are also some unique differences that are brought to the surface. And I think those are the things that we need to celebrate and move forward in education. So we have a strong understanding of who we're in the classroom with and who we're going to go out into the world with.
Does cultural education help break down barriers? Or not necessarily?
I feel like cultural education, depending on your spin, on how you present it, potentially could break down barriers. To me, if we're talking about cultural education, the way that I understand culture, it's a way of life. And for us to talk about breaking down some of those systemic barriers, we need to understand how the system was created and who it was created for. And if it wasn't created for my community, how do I figure out how to move forward to help break down some of those barriers and systems that were set in place not to benefit?
I wish we had much more time. We don't. We're already out of time. Edye, Marsha, thank you so very kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
You bet.